Today, I'm going to be talking about Berwick Rangers. Berwick Rangers, well, they're a Scottish football club. Even though they are located physically in England, they are the only English club to have been admitted into the Scottish football pyramid. The club, founded in 1881, is located just south of the English and Scottish border. It was admitted into the SFA, Scottish Football Association, in 1905. Throughout the 1900s, the Rangers struggled to make a significant impact on the world of Scottish football. They were in lower divisions, occasionally participated in the Scottish Cup, but largely were outside of the more of a local club. But following World War II, they began to gain a reputation as a hard-working side in Scottish football. They still played in the lower divisions, but they began to establish themselves as a better and better football team. They became regulars in Scottish Division C when they faced off against clubs such as Stranraer, Cowdenbeath and East Fife. The post-war era saw the club develop its youth system, helping produce some talent that would later go on to contribute to Berwick Rangers' future successes. However, they still remain distant from the more prominent teams in Scottish football. Moving on forward a little bit to the 1960s and the 1970s, which contained arguably their greatest ever success, in this amazing historic cup run in the Scottish Cup, where they started off in the first round by beating Vale Leithen 8-1, and then they moved on to beating Rangers 1-0 at the Ibrox, which sent shockwaves around Scottish football, causing many of the Rangers players to leave the club. Unfortunately, in the next round, they were paired with Hibernian and lost 1-0 to a crowd of nearly 30,000, which is amazing for a club that currently competes in the 5th level of Scottish football. Moving on. Unfortunately, in 2019, Berwick Rangers, along with East Stirlingshire, were relegated to non-league, the Scottish Lowland League, which is the equivalent of the Vanarama National League in England. So they now play non-league football, but unlike many teams in English football, it's really difficult to the point where it's almost impossible to get promoted back up to professional level of football. So when, for example, last season, many people took over Gretna 2008, pumped loads and loads of money into the club, but unfortunately they couldn't get promoted due to the fact that in the playoffs you have to play against the teams that are on the relegation from the upper in Division 2, which is called. But like those clubs have such a huge budget, which makes it basically impossible to beat them. Anyway, towards the modern day, they play in the Scottish Lowland League Premier Division, and they play all right. They've been there for 5 years now. They've had their ups and downs. They play alongside teams such as Hearts B Team, Celtic B Team, Gallifrey Rovers, Gretna 2008, which is their big rivalry between them. For example, I think my footy adventures covered one of those games a few years ago. So there's a lot of history to this club. It's older than Arsenal, older than Aberdeen. Yeah, so it's got a lot of history to it. Another interesting fact here, Berwick Rangers' best record league performance was against the same team that they beat 8-1 in the Scottish League Cup in 1967, Vale Leithen, which was an 11-0 win on the 9th of October 2021. Now, speaking to the kit man at Berwick Rangers, a way that they've gone to keep the money flowing in is to turn themselves into a community football club. So the Rangers Community Foundation was established in 2020, and they've still got very strong ties with charity. For example, on their shirts, which I'll delve into in a minute, their main sponsor is Simpson's Malt, the biggest whiskey manufacturer for the entire country, which literally sit meters away from the stadium. In the photos that I'll show you throughout this video, for example, one now. There's you can see the maltings by the stadium. Maltings, for those who don't know, are what you make alcohol and whiskey in, using malt. So, for example, this season they've got North Soul Kitchen on their shirts. There's the shirt there, which is a charity kitchen for the homeless in Berwick. Now, I'd highly recommend you visit Berwick. It is a beautiful town, and maybe get a shirt, go to one of the games. Under 16s go free, so it's a very, very very sustainable team to go and visit. Now, Berwick upon Tweed, as I've just gone into, at the moment, their current squad consists of many former professional players. For example, Callum Antel, who was on loan at Hibernian back in 2012, or who else can I go into? Liam Buchanan, who played for teams such as Wraith Rovers, Livingston back in 2017, Patrick Thistle back in 2007 to 11. And in his youth career, he kind of grew up at Hearts. So a lot of the time, a lot of players who play for Berwick Rangers will be on loan from other bigger clubs, like Joe Ellison, for example, who is on loan from St Johnstone, along with Ben McChrystal, and Owen Calder, who is on loan from Hibernian. Now, I think I've gone. Obviously, I was taken around on a tour of this stadium, Shielfield Park, by a brilliant host, Colin Thompson. I'll tag his Instagram below. He is the kit man for the club. And we were shown around. We got taken in through the front door, the players' entrance, and we were taken upstairs to the hospitality area. And we were taken into the box. That's the box there on screen now. It's a very nice box for Scottish Lowland League football. It, however, was very cold, and I don't know if I've got any photos or videos of it, but you could see your breath in the room when you were there. And you could see on the right, you could see the media box, which is also used for the speedway when they do motorcycle racing in the stadium. As I haven't shared before, the stadium is shared by a a speedway for motorcycle racing. We were told many interesting stories from Berwick Rangers past, when they played Glasgow Rangers, for example, and Paul Gascoigne played at the club in the stadium, along with George Best. George Best, that's a very funny story we were told about George Best. He was he played, I think would have been about the 80s when he played for Hibs at the time. And he played the first half, and then at half time, he asked one of the people for the club to go upstairs to the hospitality lounge and get him a drink. He came down and he didn't go back on in the second half, and just stayed in the changing rooms drinking. It's not a very funny story, and it probably shows how he could have been a better player if he didn't. But yeah. Now, Berwick Rangers, I don't know if I've covered this yet, share their ground with another club from the lower leagues of Scottish football, called Tweedmouth Rangers. But even though they play in the lower leagues, they were founded in 2010, and they get apparently quite a lot more people per game than Berwick Rangers, unfortunately. When we were there at the stadium, they were preparing for Tweedmouth's game. I can't quite remember against who, but the changing rooms were set up for that game. I've got some photos of the shirts, which are really on screen now. And again, the ball on the stand, which is actually my profile picture on the channel at the moment. And again, a very nice club. I got in contact with them as well to ask if I could come. They replied afterwards and gave me a very nice conversation about the club in its history. Now, my experience of the club was one that was very wholly positive, and I'd recommend you go for a game. Under 16s going free. I was given this programme from the Hearts game when I visited the shop, and again, I'd recommend you to visit the shop if you're ever going there for a match. These shirts are very cool, actually, for a team. I believe, they're sponsored by Macron, which do Stoke City, if you didn't know. And the shirts on the front of their gold and black on the home shirt with Northern Soul Kitchen, which is a charity kitchen, but they're overall sponsored by Simpson's Malt, which is the big whiskey sponsor for big whiskey manufacturer for the whole country. But they get a charity put on the front of the shirt every season. And also, if you go online, you can get your name printed on the shirt for next season, as part of the design of the shirt. The away shirt is even cooler, having the bridges in Berwick plus the tower in the centre of Berwick. Again, Berwick is a beautiful place, and I'd wholly recommend you visit Berwick and coincide it with a game to Berwick Rangers. And I mean, even if you're visiting Newcastle United, it's only a half an hour drive up north, and it's a very, very beautiful place. And you can go to Alnwick and Bamborough nearby and see the Bamborough FC where they play, and it's just a field really, but it's just in the most beautiful place underneath Bamborough Castle. I'll put that on screen as well now because I visited that when I was there. Now I'm going to go through Berwick Rangers kit history from the 1980s onwards. Berwick Rangers, from the 1800s, from 1884 to present day, from 1884 to 1885, they actually only played in white, I believe. Moving on, 1885 to 1900, they actually played in orange and black, similar to Barnet FC's colours, unlike the gold and black they play today, which was adopted in 1908 and has been kept ever since. Berwick Rangers, the first time they ever gained a sponsor on their shirt was 1977, I believe, and which was Bukta. And Bukta sponsored them for 2 seasons, to 1980, at which point Umbro sponsored them for a good till 1987. From then on, it was Spall for another 6 seasons, at which point Patrick, the Scottish, I believe it's Scottish, sports band Patrick took over for 3, and then Avec took over for 2. And then a more famous band came in, probably the most famous one since Umbro. ProStar Soccer came in from 2000 to 2005, at which point TFG were for 1 season, then Lotto, so it's a bit of a turbulent time for their kits. TFG, Lotto, Macron, Hummel, Zeus Sport for 4 seasons, and at which point, interestingly, from 2017 to 2019, the shirts were sponsored by Mitre, same with that you see all the footballs on, and they very rarely do shirts these days. And then Hummel sponsored them for another season, at which point Kappa took over, and from then till now, they've been sponsored by Macron. And really, their sponsors have all been local Berwick type things. So, for example, in 1988, they were sponsored by Berwick Holiday Centre, along with the season before and after. They were sponsored by them for about 4 seasons. Johnson's and Payton from 1984 to 1986. Ayton Motor Company, lots of motor companies have sponsored them. So they're not the kind of team that will have one shirt forever and never get really any sponsors on it. They're very much a very commercial team, very involved in charity. For example, in 2022, they had Thrive on there, which I believe is a charity. Again, Northern Soul Kitchen have been on there in 2018 to 19 and this season. And I believe the season coming up, it's another different charity. I've been talking to the kit man about next season's kits, which again, I'd highly recommend you go and buy one of this season's kits. Maybe even sponsor a player, which is only £50, which is about the same price as a normal kit, really. So thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed, drop a like or follow. If there's any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them in a future video. That's all from me, but I just want to say that this is a very, very brilliant club. And even though it's had its ups and downs, I'm sure it'll get its ups again. And thank you for hosting me around the club.